if Eddie Hearn watches your podcast, I do not know why he's not picked up Long Drive yet, because it's got all the makings of an Eddie Hearn putting a wrapper around it and selling it to millions for loads of money.
The big lad all of a sudden just stood in front of me and was like, give me your clubs.
I think golf courses, at least at the top of the game, I'm worried that they're kind of starting to price us out of it, and I'm worried there's a bubble that might burst soon.
Before we get into this week's episode, I just wanted to take a quick moment just to say, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please hit it right now. YouTube sometimes does a weird thing where it unsubscribes you randomly, so just double check that is subscribed, not subscribed. That would be wonderful. And if you're listening on whatever platform, please hit that follow button. It really does help. And share it with your friends. Let's all be part of the Birdie Golf Club. It's very inclusive. Please join in. Thank you so much to the sponsors who make this all possible, Strixon and Painter. And let's dive into this week's episode.
This is the Birdie Golf Club
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Birdie Golf Club podcast, episode 92. And this week we are joined by a returning guest, a good friend of the podcast, a guy that I brought to my home course and just showed him a thing or two whilst you were there. Luke, the Weekend Tour Pro, welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you for having me. What he didn't tell you in that introduction is that I also hit 2 shanks on camera when it really mattered as well. So I embarrassed myself firmly in that video.
Do you know what? It was so unfair. And I think you cut out a bit where I got or maybe I didn't. I probably didn't press record like I didn't for that 8-iron as well. But I did turn the camera to myself and said, this is really unfair on Luke. He's played unbelievably well the first 12 holes today. And then he hits 2 shanks when we record. It's just typical.
I cut that out, mate, because I thought people don't want to hear me do good stuff. They like watching me make a fool of myself on the internet for their enjoyment, right? I don't need the sympathy. I'll just take the constant stick and banter.
I just appreciate you didn't put in the sort of wah 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 when I stone cold top one out of the rough, which was, I was waiting for it. But you were very kind, mate.
It's always about making the guests look good and making me look bad. That's the goal.
Yeah. You got to win one of those things. You know that you're almost too nice. I think you go into it too nice. I think if we redo at some point, don't give me the gimmies.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, noted. I will take that on board. Do you know what? It's probably any content creators that follow you, Dave, will know this. You've been on this journey yourself. When you are the solo content creator and you are cameraman, sound man, videographer, production, director, trying to actually then play golf that's to a level that's okay when you already are an average golfer, it's quite challenging. So I think that's one of the reasons I haven't won one just yet, or at least that's the excuse I keep giving. But I think when I do win one, I'm going to start like running laps around the 18th green in front of the clubhouse and shirts are going to come off and everything.
It was eye-opening for me, actually, Luke, because that was the first time I'd done anything like that. Out on course, and it was sort of the attention to detail that you went to, and realizing that is sort of the level that's required to produce content, even with like I thought we were done. Like we had lunch and everything like that, and then you're like, right now and you did say you can go. I was like, no, I want to tag along and see what you do, and then the photography side of things for the thumbnails and for the content after it was a whole other level to what I do, to be honest with you, mate.
Yeah, and I think like there's 2 parts to that, I guess, Dave. Like part of it is my own passion for it and enjoyment for it and sort of self-development. So the photography side of things is started off as a thumbnail thing of you've got to take a thumbnail for your YouTube video or for your reel covers and things like that. And it's just naturally developed into something I've become really interested in and passionate about over the last 6 months of, when I go to these golf courses, it's another service that I can offer them, that there's hopefully a creative eye that's there from my videography kind of part of my role that then maybe translates itself into a sort of photographer's eye. and it's just part of my own personal development. It makes me maybe a little bit different to some other creators out there, that I'm actually wanting to give the golf course something back. Of, can I capture your golf course while I'm here? Can I showcase it in a way that gives you something as a thank you for hosting me? And I'm really passionate about kind of like building mutually beneficial relationships where everywhere I go. I want the golf club that we visit or I visit to feel like they got something out of hosting us that day, and it wasn't just all take. So the photography's naturally become a part of that, and it's just something I've become really, really passionate about. It started off as like I fell in love with the drone side of things, which unfortunately we couldn't do on the day due to the strong winds. And then the next string to the bow was naturally the photography. And I must admit, the photography is something that I've obviously got so much to learn compared to where my skill set is as a videographer, which again is still got a lot to learn. But it's something I'm really, really passionate about. I captured a couple of, when you capture that picture of a golf course that you just think, God, I don't think anyone would have seen that angle or thought of that angle before. It does give you kind of an interesting little thrill, in the same way that maybe holing a putt does out on the golf course, or at least that's how sad I am, is that I get that buzz from it.
No, I noticed that about. To be honest, and it was sort of it was really enjoyable to see that you weren't sort of going out, because I'd imagine for some that side of things becomes a bit sort of mundane and like, okay, come on, let's get this done, and maybe they rush it, maybe they do it whilst they're playing. But I could tell you were sitting there, we were having lunch, and I could tell you were sitting there like really looking forward to getting the camera out and going to. And we had quite a dark and gloomy day, but you were sort of saying, oh, that could add like a certain atmosphere to it, and all sort of things that I wouldn't be thinking about, because it's not like a passion of mine. But then to see your passion bleed through was really nice, and it was almost kind of catching as well. I got my iPhone out, and I was thinking, I wonder if Luke will like this photo that I've taken of the grass.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, you do get yourself into some weird positions to get the shot. There's a lot of your knees are either
Contortionist.
muddy. Yeah, your knees are either muddy or wet or damp from the grass at all points. You're laying down on your chest trying to get the angle of the tee box or whatever. But yeah, it's all part of the fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we can get back into that a bit later on. Did you watch any of the golf this weekend?
I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch a lot. I've seen a few clips on social media, if I'm honest with you, Dave. I really liked the clip that was doing the rounds today of like Rory and Wyndham at the end of the sort of round where he was congratulating him and things like that. But no, I followed the scores. I didn't watch it. And probably, again, I don't want to ruin your segment, but it probably speaks to how I feel about golf at the moment. I'm really struggling to be engaged by sort of top level men's golf, if I'm honest with you. I'm finding that I used to be the guy that would sit there every Sunday and the PGA Tour final round was on my TV. It was just a part of my kind of weekend, in the same way that maybe watching the football was for somebody else. And I've just really struggled over the last couple of years with the way the ecosystem's gone to have the same passion for it. And I find myself, the limited time that I do watch the golf now, I find myself in two places. Either the DP World Tour, because I really feel like there's some people playing for a livelihood on there. The money's not as big. There's, the course variety seems to be there. And I absolutely have a passion for, which I'm sure we'll come on to in a minute. I love watching the women's golf because, again, they're doing it for a career. I personally find it a lot more relatable because of the distances they're hitting. Watching them never miss a green with a fairway wood, dreaming of that kind of level of accuracy. But yeah, when it comes to the PGA Tour, I think I'll watch that. The Tour Champs, I think it's this weekend or next weekend.
Yeah.
I'll definitely tune in for that. But outside of the majors, I'm struggling to be engaged by it, Dave.
It sort of echoes the sentiments of the podcast over the last sort of month or two, really, where I've sort of said I struggle to care. And it's not that I struggle to care about the personalities, because I do think that's overstressed about personalities in golf. Like let's be brutally honest, it's not a game that lends itself towards sort of like people ripping their shirts off and being. If you're melodramatic on a golf course, you tend to be picked up on it, and it's not a good thing, right? Think of Sergio Garcia and smashing tee boxes, and no one seems to like that. So that's not really an issue. But I definitely do find there is this problem with the tournaments all sort of melding into one thing that kind of doesn't matter. I hope the changes that they've made for next year, I think it's next year, help. with this sort of two-tiered sort of league system. And I think the FedEx is going to go back to match play, and I think there's some changes that they're looking to make. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to care about a golfer winning another $3 million because it just, other than the majors, the tournaments,
Yeah.
maybe the players probably has the prestige, but other than that, I mean, even this weekend, right? We're going to have the FedEx Cup. Now you look at last year, Tommy Fleetwood won, and that was interesting in itself because Tommy got his first PGA Tour win. But he won the FedEx Cup, but Scotty won the FedEx Championship, and that can never make sense. That can never be a thing. You know, we're getting into live territory of Legion 13 winning the winning the team championship, but whacking Neiman or whoever. I think it was actually Michael Lasasso who won this weekend on live. But it just it's got to have a clearer, tangible sort of like excitement to it.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure how we do that.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I'm like you, excited for the changes, and we'll certainly give them a go next year because it's always worth giving it a go. I find there's certain events that draw me in. So I really love Riviera when that's on the PGA Tour. I really like that as a golf course. It's sort of one that really I think comes across well on TV. I've got a real thing for like Arnold Palmer, like Bay Hill. I think that falls in the time of the year for us in the UK when we're just kind of getting into the spring and the golf season really feels like it's kicking off for us as players. And then, like you say, obviously then lead up to the players and then obviously into the major season. But you're absolutely right. I think once I get kind of past the last major of the year, I think it's really easy for me to sort of disengage with it a little bit at the moment. They're not doing enough to kind of draw me in as a viewer beyond
Absolutely.
that. And it is a shame because I think you are right to a degree. I think if there was someone up the leaderboard that I really, really was a big fan of, Tommy being one, Shane Lowry, I really like Shane, got a lot of time for someone like him. If it was people like that I really feel like I root for, I probably would have switched on. And I am a big fan of Rory, by the way, so I say that, being a fan of Rory as well, but I didn't think he was going to come back and win based on the leaderboard that I saw after the third round, even if he did give it a good go.
It didn't
Yeah.
end up. He got
Yeah.
within a shot. I think on the 15th he was within a shot. And then he bogeyed and Wyndham birdied, and then Wyndham birdied his last 3 holes, I think.
Yeah.
So he deserved to win.
What's your thoughts on Wyndham? Because my perspective on him is, I think he's obviously had a very up and down, public perception. Maybe events that happened. Was it LA Country Club a couple of years ago with the locker room and things like that? But I think there's a lot of if you just take that to one side and think about him as a golfer, his journey over the last couple of years, picking up the majors and things like that. It's been a hell of a journey, hasn't it? And actually, you've got to sort of give him a lot of kudos. He's probably up there in the top sort of 3 or 4 players in the world over the last year or two, hasn't he? And I think if you just look at the golfer of him, unbelievable talent, right?
Yeah, I think it was Oakmont where he smashed up the
Oakmont,
locker room
Oakmont.
after he.
Yeah.
And look, not a great look. Obviously, didn't go down well with the club. Didn't go down well with the golf world in general. He apologised. Like he made pretty open apologies about it. He also, I think the thing with Wyndham that people don't like is that he'll apologise, and then he'll sort of say like, but we all make mistakes, and it's a very true. It's a very true point. Like, you can't argue with him. Like, we all make mistakes. Yeah, absolutely. It's just we all don't have, golf news outlets following us all the time. He does, and he is held to a different standard. So that is, like it or not, you're in that position. It's a great position where you get to earn a lot of money playing the game of golf, and these are the things that come along with it. As far as him as a golfer, like you can remove his personality from it. He's probably not the most likable guy on the tour. Like, I think that's the general sort of consensus among things. He's certainly not afraid of saying things. I think he was asked about the par 3 tournament at the Masters, and he said something along the lines of that it basically, it makes him sort of not want to have kids, pretty much. like one of the most wholesome events where people love watching the kids run around, and he's looking at it as this is a nightmare. Very funny. Like that is very, it's very funny. It won't elevate him as being like a most loved person in the sport. But as far as a golfer goes, I think I view him like the anti Sam Burns.
Mm.
Like Sam
Yeah, I
Burns
like that.
has all the ability. Keegan Bradley bashed it into us that he's the best putter in the world over and over and over and over again when he was Ryder Cup captain and picked him. But he cannot get it over the line. Like when it really matters. Like he's won. Is he 4-time PGA Tour winner? I think so. He has won, but when it comes to major tournaments, and obviously now Wyndham can be held to that standard. You know, he's won 2. Is that right? 2 majors now.
Yeah, yeah.
That takes something different. And I've always looked at Sam Burns, and I call back to this. I think it was at Pebble at the very start of the year when he hit an iron off the 18th when he had a chance of winning still. And no one hits iron off the 18th at Pebble. Like you hit driver out the tree. Like that is the play.
Yeah.
And he hit it in the rough with an iron. I just thought, there it is. That's not that killer instinct. That he may be an unbelievable golfer, but these other guys have this self-belief. And I'm not sure whether at some point that's been kicked out of Sam Burns. So I think Wyndham definitely has that. And look, I think he's in with a shout of Player of the Year, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely has to be, right? Has to be. I think Scotty will get it based on his results consistently over the year, won't he? But yeah, if you're looking at alternative options, if Wyndham's not in your thinking, then yeah, I don't know who is.
He beats Rory out, I think. You know, as far as Player of the Year, I don't think Rory could say he's had as good a year. If Rory wins the FedEx, next week, then he's part of the conversation again. If Wyndham wins it, I think he beats Scotty.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But what do you think? What do you think about him?
The other quote I was thinking of that stands out to me from Wyndham, which was probably the one weirdly, out of all of them, I struggled with the most, was I remember a couple of years ago him suggesting that they should reduce the number of tour cards on the PGA Tour. And it was kind of one of those things of, it was around the time when the elevated events were kicking in and Liv was there. And it was almost like, it wasn't so long ago that you were that guy that was on the edge of the cusp every year. And I don't think you'd have liked the opportunity for playing rights to be taken away. And it's almost kind of, you've got yourself into that next echelon of golfer. And now you're kind of voting for that or speaking outwardly of it. But yeah, I try my best. To his point, I do try my best. I'm far from a perfect character. I'm very fallible. I make a load of mistakes in my life. I say a lot of things. I'm sure I'll say some things tonight on here and I'll be like, why did I say that on a podcast that's going to go out onto the internet? So I'm very conscious of the fact that, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do that as well every week. But I'm very conscious of the fact that I don't want to bash a guy for things that, maybe when you take them in the cold light of day aren't the worst things in the world to say. And I'm not saying for everyone to hold their own opinion on that. I just try and look at him as the golfer. And as a golfer, I think I wouldn't want to be playing match play against you if I was one of the Europeans. And I don't think I'd want to be coming down the stretch, heads up with you going for a competition, to win a tournament. It's me v you kind of having a shootout, because to your point, he just seems to have this ruthlessness ability to get over the line when it matters that somehow kicked in over the last couple of years. And I do think he's a brilliant golfer. I think he's a very good golfer, like so many of them are, right, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like you said, obviously the DP World Tour as well. Was it Scott Jameson won this week, and it had been 14 years since his last win. I've been trying to do a better job of keeping an eye on the DP World Tour, just because sometimes, because of the mass amount of golf that there is to watch, the DP World Tour sometimes slips from my mind. But I had Joe Dean on a couple of weeks ago, and I set him a challenge in that episode of a dozen golf balls only on the range. And he was playing in Denmark that weekend, and he messaged me, and he was T9, I think, going into the weekend, and he's like a dozen every day. Like he's been sticking to it. And I think he ended up like T30. I think he's ended up with 2 top 30 finishes over the next 2 weeks. So we're keeping an eye on Joe Dean. If he's sticking to the dozen before he plays, then he said a shout out for the podcast. I was thinking 10% of the purse, but it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. We can settle for a shout out. It's absolutely fine. So that's been really interesting to watch, and I'm rooting for Joe to be able to get to the sort of end of the year and all the big stuff that happens in Abu Dhabi and all that goes on. And he's close. He's close to that line.
Yeah. DP World Tour is great. I love the variety of course on it. I really do. And yeah, it's if I've got time on a Sunday to watch that final round, I do enjoy it. I really do. It's there's always something for someone that really means something on the line, and that's always nice to watch.
And obviously with the ladies scene as well. Obviously, you've got the LET and you've got the LPGA and everything like that goes on. I know you've got an interest in that side of the game. What is it specifically as well that for you when it comes to the ladies game that you really enjoy watching and that is relatable? Because I do think, just to not fight back on that point, but relatability sometimes gets lost on golfers when they think that the scratch golfer who thinks he could beat the ladies tour pro. And I think they take that word relatability and skew it to being you're the same as me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So when I talk relatability, I'm mainly talking sort of distance and speed effectively. Now, I think it's fair to say that the trend that kicked in on the men's game over the last few years around kind of trying to increase your club head speed, and there's a lot of data that shows distance equals strokes gained and yada, yada, yada. I think that's naturally filtered its way into the women's game. If you look at the top 20-25% of the women's longest hitters, hit it an absolute bomb these days. Absolutely do appreciate, again, when you look at LPGA Tour, a bit like PGA Tour, they're playing firm and fast, and that obviously makes everything longer. But even if you look at the LET stats where that's not always the case, distance at the top of that game has grown. But if we go into that kind of middle percentile and even go and look at the bottom 25%, you will find there will be a lady on the LET who's got an average driver distance that is lower than the average male golfer. They're swinging it at 90 mile an hour, 92 mile an hour. The one thing that you will then, and that's the bit that's relatable. The bit that's then not relatable is then you go and look at their fairways hit percentage and it's like 95%. And then when you look at how many greens they hit from 200 yards with a 3 or a 5 wood in their hands, and it's, absolutely outrageous. That's obviously where the comparison ends, absolutely massively. And yeah, I'm, again, you've got to be really careful what you say and don't want to generalize, but any man that thinks that they would beat one of these people, one of these ladies professional golfers under the circumstances that they're competing under, with the tournament pressure, with the crowds, with a camera crew on them, and thinks that they would beat them, I absolutely do not think you will beat them, because I've seen a lot of them up close and personal. I've been to a lot of women's events. I've been to the Ladies Open 3 or 4 times now. They are absolutely unreal. And you get someone like Charlie or Nelly, there is a crowd 5 deep following them. Like, you think you're going to hit the green from 200 yards with a 5 wood in your hand, with a crowd 5 deep following you. And as soon as Charlie's hit, if you're the other player in the group, the crowd, like they did with Tiger, they're moving on to get to the next shot to watch Charlie, and you've still got to be over your ball with all that noise going on and hit your shot. Like, the ladies are unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And like I say, it's just watching them with a head cover in their hand, and they hit head covers with the accuracy that I hit probably a 20-yard chip shot. It's that kind of skill level. Their short games are outstanding. They chip, putt, absolutely out of this world, as good as, because it's not a skill that's based on power or whatever. So you could put Nelly around the greens with some of the best male short game players in the world, and she's as good as them. Like that is a skill that they've got. So you're absolutely right to push back on the it being relatable. And I am, putting that into the box of distance and how long the courses are that they play and things like that. But I just love it for that reason. And the other reason I love it is, again, stories. That there's people on these tours that are playing for their livelihood every single week. They're playing to earn the prize money. I think the LET prize money last week was €52,000. Now, let's compare that to what you just talked about on the FedEx for the men. And obviously there's a whole conversation that we won't go into today on why is that the case. But that 52,000 is the difference between that player funding their career for the next 2 years and paying their mortgage and paying their coach and being able to afford to get a flight to the next tournament and not. And that's where I think there's an even bigger pressure on these players, because it's kind of perform or you lose your job effectively at the end of it. There's no kind of money in the bank. And a story that I probably should touch on, if you don't mind me, Dave, is that actual
please.
event. Swiss Open last week was won by a lady on the LET called Ellie Givens. Now, I've had the pleasure of meeting Ellie about 2 years ago. She was hosting a ladies' golf clinic at a place called Portsmouth Golf Centre with one of her brands, which is a ladies' golf clothing brand called Swing Out Sister. They're a UK brand, absolutely brilliant, in that market, and they're her sponsor. And I got asked as part of my relationship there just to help with some content creation, filming the day or whatever, and naturally met Ellie through that journey. And I followed her like you do, probably in the same way that you follow your guests. You mentioned Joe, you follow them, and unbelievable follow on Instagram, by the way. If you want to follow an LET player that really is funny, give Ellie a follow. But the thing about Ellie's journey, she lost her playing rights at the end of last season. She's had an injury last season. You see her even this year, she's competing often with like tape around her knee and things, because she just when she gets an opportunity to play where she gets into an event with the playing rights that she's got, she just has to go. And this week in Switzerland, on the 210th time of asking, she won her first LET event. And she came through the field on the last day to win it. I think she was sort of third group from the end, posted a number on the last day. And if you followed Ellie's journey over the last 6 months, she nearly gave up when she lost her playing rights. And she decided, I'm just going to give this one more go, invested in herself, not much money, all these kind of things. And she's got a reward. And I can honestly tell you, I was in a shopping centre on the Saturday with my wife, refreshing the Ladies European Tour page as the players behind her were coming in, just as horrible as it sounds, wishing they didn't make birdie, because a couple of the players behind her were players that had won. And you just thought, if this goes to a playoff, have they got the know-how just to get over the line or whatever? And you've only got to see the reaction from the other players. She's obviously a very well-liked player on the tour. And again, her social media content would back that up. But it was just that kind of never give up, like back yourself. You don't know when that life-changing moment is happening. And that's a story that I felt. And, I was delighted to message her and say congrats. I was delighted to see every clip that was posted about her celebrating, because you know what it means to this person. And I think that's the story that I want to watch in golf. That's the story that really gets me excited to turn on the TV. And it goes back to your point. It gets me more excited than watching a player that's already a multi-millionaire win another £3 million on an event that's invite only to a degree because of their performances in the season. Like, this is someone that has now got a tour card for the next 2 years based on winners' rights. It's the player that can now think about being a golfer for another 2 years. It might lead to sponsorship opportunities, off the back of being a winner that weren't there for Ellie before. Like, she deserves everything that's coming her way, and I hope it does, and I really hope it opens the floodgates. But that's why I love ladies golf, is that story.
That's an awesome story, and congratulations, Ellie. Like 210 starts and then getting that win. That's amazing. Love to have you on the podcast at some point, Ellie, and talk about your story. And obviously the pivotal moment of when you met Luke at Portsmouth Golf Centre and how that has led to this moment now. But that is amazing.
I'm not trying to take... not taking any credit. What I would say is she is also, and this is why she's a great follow on Instagram, I've never known anyone to have so many issues with their flights. It almost, that I think it was in Switzerland that week, she would have to tell you this. I'm pretty sure her clubs didn't turn up on the flight. So she got to Switzerland and her clubs were still back in whatever the airport is in the northeast that she flies from. And I think they arrived, a day or so later. And it's kind of like, and she will tell you more of this, but that is almost a weekly occurrence from her, that a flight is delayed or cancelled. It's like, don't ever catch a flight with Ellie Givens if you want to get to your destination on time. But
just an absolute carry on.
Yeah, it is, mate. It is.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, look, stories make sports, right? I mean, that's what. Look, Premier League started this weekend, and a lot of my time went on that, and it was a disappointing weekend as a Man United fan. But at the same time, that ability for there to be this sort of crazy swings that happen and for there to be stories within stories and anything can happen is what makes sports interesting. Like you said, at the top of the game, they're all going to be fine. And the hardest part of that is how do you take that away from them? Like we've gone down this road too far now, where they're, like you said, they're all multi millionaires. These guys on the PGA Tour. So how do you convince them, because of the player power that exists, that actually we want to take that away from you because that's going to make people care more? So you're still going to be paying for this much. You know, the money's always going to be there, but equally, if you start doing badly, you're going to do really badly because that's interesting. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to it. I really don't, Dave. And I think there's probably far smarter people than me trying to solve that problem. But I don't know if it's
I'm
an
not
age
sure,
thing
Luke.
as well.
Like, you look at some of the PGA Tour decisions and you go, feels like they just went with the wind on that one.
Well, again, not sure, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know if it's an age thing in general, because you mentioned even the Premier League. Football was my first love, but I don't know if it's an age thing. As I'm getting older, I'm finding it really hard to be engaged by Premier League football. Not because of the fact, again, it's the same thing of like, win or lose, you still pack it £500,000. I don't think it is all about the money, because it's these guys. Everyone's got a different view on that whole kind of one you hear about a brain surgeon should earn the money, or a nurse, or whatever.
Sure.
Like, we're never going to resolve that or whatever. But the product, they get paid based on what the product is bringing in, right? It's kind of, no one's paying them £500,000 and the club's bringing in £10, right? That's just not the reality of it.
Exactly, yeah.
But it is really hard. And again, probably the same with football. My passion over the last couple of years has probably gone for the same reason to like the lower leagues and non-league is where I really enjoy. I love going to watch a non-league football game where these people are playing for their livelihoods or they're playing for the love of the game, and you've got these volunteers and these communities that are running these football clubs, and it's their little heartbeat of their local town or whatever. There's something quite special about that. And actually, not to bring it back to golf, but when I do my golf course vlogs, it's one of the things I really search out. I really search out these golf courses that, like, let's be clear, if I went to Trump Turnberry, obviously hosting the event, or one of the Trump courses hosting the event this week, they don't want me there, right? I'm not Rick Shields, I'm not Peter Finch, I haven't got the following that is worth it. So there's one part of it is they don't want me, but I also don't know if at the moment I want them, because I want to go to these courses where I'm going to meet someone like me that's a really passionate golfer that gives up their time to run their local golf club and volunteers and is on the committee and is really passionate about the place that this little, whether it's a 9-hole or an 18-holer, plays in the community they live in. And if you go and look for them, there are so many of them still around in the UK. I've visited a couple of them in Scotland recently, and there's certainly some near me. And you just get a vibe when you go in the place. And I think that's the bit of golf, it's the bit of football, it's the bit of any sport that I'm probably finding myself more and more leaning towards is I want to kind of follow the people where you're doing it for the passion and the love, more than you're doing it for the money, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I unfortunately for me, the non-league stuff, or even the lower league stuff, got killed off because I was raised in Crawley, and I don't know if you've ever been to a Crawley home game. It was not football, but it also wasn't even good sort of long ball either. It was just the most dire sort of thing to watch, and it sort of really killed that enthusiasm for me for the lower league. But if I had like a lower league team close by that were good to watch, and there was an atmosphere and everything like that, and like you said, the stories behind it, you're talking there of your passion and everything. Have you found that passion has sort of evolved as you've been doing the content game from where it started?
Yeah, I think so. I think as humans, we're predisposed, I can't pronounce that word, predisposed to, I think, kind of find like-minded people, aren't we? And I think as you kind of get older, you obviously adapt and you grow as a person, or hopefully you grow as a person, and you find out kind of who you enjoy spending time with. And probably part of the reason we've got on is probably going on similar journeys, probably in terms of corporate careers or whatever, in a similar journey as well. And you kind of end up sort of finding sort of this common ground with someone that you go, "Man, we've got the same values here. We value the same things. We're chasing the same things." But I think that changes as you get older. It was really interesting actually. I was on holiday again, not to go too off topic. I was on holiday on the Isle of Mull, which is like one of these islands off Scotland, a couple of weeks ago, and I've never felt more in tune with the idea of just like selling up and moving to live on an island where you earn a job where you're just enough to pay your way kind of thing, and everyone is in a community together, and you spend your weekends in the countryside and playing the one little 9-hole golf course that's on the island that again is all volunteers running. I was like, this really appeals to me. Now if you asked me 10 years ago, I couldn't have thought of anything worse. So I think it is a little bit of an age thing, and your priorities and things in life change, and as doors open and close. But the golf course thing in particular, I think is, I think it's just meeting people, and kind of, when I started this journey, I naturally reached out to golf courses that maybe weren't getting their moment on YouTube and things, and thought, actually, I'm trying to grow, you're trying to grow, there's something in it for both of us. And you just find yourself meeting people that you just share values with and have a lot in common with. And a bit like you said when we filmed together, I'm not the guy that ends up turning up at a golf course, filming for 2 or 3 hours and leaving. I'm normally there for a day because I want to sit in your clubhouse and I want to eat food with your members and I want to speak to your committee, because I think that's part of how I tell the story of that golf club and bring it to life a little bit more. But it's also because I just enjoy the company of the people that you meet, most certainly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's so much to that with golf, and every golf course has its own little story as well, right? That I think back to when I was a kid growing up, and there was a place called Tilgate Forest Golf Course, and it wasn't the main course because I didn't play it very often, but the 9-hole course there was so special. Like, it was so special. Set in the trees, the pine trees around, and you're talking 30-yard gap in these trees, and you holes going from 60 yards all the way up to 200 yards. But the gap never really got much bigger. It was just a horrendous place to try and learn the game, really, because it was so difficult. And it was such an interesting place for me because it had this sort of complicated sort of history for me, really, because I loved playing the game there. And then when I was like 14, I used to go up there by myself because it was right near my house. So I'd just go up there by myself and go and play around. And I was like 13, something like that, 13, 14. I played around with this group I sort of knew one of them. And then there was this older kid there that played along. We played like 6, 7 holes of golf. And it was a little bit odd because I didn't really know them that well. But, I was like, oh, it's okay. We're on a golf course. It's a safe place and all that. And then we literally got to like the seventh hole, and because you have to walk through this like forest, the big lad all of a sudden just stood in front of me and was like, "Give me your clubs." Now I'm glad this didn't happen when we played together, because that would have maybe I'd had flashbacks. But give me your clubs, and like took one of his clubs, threatened me with it, and like took like 3. He didn't take. I think. Do you know what? I think the thing that affected me the most, he didn't take all of them. So there was obviously some there that he just thought not worth it. But he took like 5 or 6 clubs out of my bag. The other 2 were standing like next to him, and then they just left. And it was like, I remember I got home. I didn't tell my dad. Like I was so embarrassed. Like I was so embarrassed. When you're a kid, everything's always bigger, and you think, oh, I don't want him to know about that. And I was really embarrassed about the whole thing, and it kind of killed my love of the game for a little while as well, to an extent, because I used to just view it as a safe place. I could go up there, play my golf. Everyone there's nice, and it sort of became quite. And the really sad thing about that place now, gone. It was turned into a foot golf before COVID, because that happened to a load of 9-hole courses, and then they couldn't recover it once the foot golf died out, and now it literally just sits there overgrown. And I'd love to go back and sort of retrace sort of steps through it, really. I'm going to try and do that at some point and sort of just have a look around and try and sort of see where the golf course was, because I reckon it quite quickly has become overgrown. But every single person in golf hopefully doesn't have a sadder story of what's happened to them, but will have somewhere that holds a special place for them, and it doesn't have to be amazing. Like, it doesn't have to be like, old head. For me, it's also Valdemio in Portugal, where I play with my dad. Like, the only time we played abroad golf together, just a 9-hole golf course in Portugal. Where's your place? Where's your place, Luke?
That's a great question. I don't think I've got any real evocative sort of story to go with it than you, but I was just about to say, I bet you the majority of people, if you ask that question, the golf course wouldn't be the big fancy golf course. It will be the local municipal where they learnt the game and they remember spending time with their friends. I think I've said this before. Like, I didn't pick up the game seriously till I was a lot older. So I've got two that sort of would be there. There's a 9-hole pitch and putt course which is surrounded by a cage on the seafront of Portsmouth, and it was my first introduction to golf as a child. My mum would take me down there in the school holidays, and we'd play pitch and putt with these kind of balls that wouldn't go full flight and things like that because they couldn't go outside of the cage. And that's a really nice memory I have. I don't have many of my family that play golf, so it's the one sort of memory I've got of like a parent playing golf kind of with me. It was my mum using a putter off the tee, not realising it was a putter kind of thing, and hitting that. But in terms of a more golf course, there's a course near me which it's called Portsmouth Golf Course, but lots of people would know it as Crookhorn. And it's built on the side of a hill, effectively, called Portsdown Hill. But it was the first golf course I was a member at, going back about 10, 11 years ago now. And it was the place that I fell in love with golf. And it was the place where there was a group of 4 of us, me and three friends. We'd be there at 6:20, 6:30 on a Sunday morning, as soon as the light was up, often arriving just before the light got there in the spring and the autumn, first group out. And it just taught me so much about golf. There was not a flat lie on the golf course. Most of the time, the ball was above or below your feet. There was times in the summer where you couldn't stop the golf ball from rolling 50 yards down a slope onto the next hole because it was that extreme and things. But it's also got some stunning views over Portsmouth as well on the top hole. So it's actually got something going for it. But it does hold a special place in my heart because it's the place I learnt to play golf, I guess. And it's the time where I probably think about my golf journey now. It's probably the one time I played golf for the pure fun of it. There was nothing else but fun and social in it, if that makes sense. Like, I wasn't trying to necessarily get better. I wasn't having lessons to try and improve my swing. It was just going out with a bag of clubs with 3 friends to just enjoy yourself. And yeah, it's I go back probably once every 2 years and play it with some friends, and it's really nice to just play it for old time's sake and see how you can maybe take it on a little bit more these days and things. But yeah, probably that's the one for me, and anyone in the Portsmouth area would probably relate to that golf course. They've probably played it at some point.
I love that. You got to get back to that sometimes with golf, just going out with a bag of clubs and just enjoy it. I mean, I tried the other day, and actually, I know you laughed at my story of this, where I went out and played at a place called Eastbourne Downs, which is a great little course. It gets talked about badly sometimes because, maybe greens aren't in the best shape. One thing I love about it, you can turn up wearing whatever. Like, they do not care. Like, I turned up in a pair of swim shorts and a t-shirt, and the guy didn't even blink. Like, he was like, "Yep, sweet." It was like 15 quid for 18 holes after a certain time. The course is in great nick. Well, it's in great nick as in the sense of the greens were great. That
Yeah.
we've lost the game. We did lose the game at one point over here in the UK. It has now rained a little bit, and we might have the game back. But it was insane. Like, I lost, I think, 9 golf balls. And they were in the middle of the fairway.
Yeah.
What did we do? Game's gone.
The game is gone. Do you know what? It's I think it's going to be not to turn your podcast really serious, but I think it's going to be a really interesting thing for golf clubs, particularly on the south sort of side of the UK, what they're going to do over the next few years, because I think obviously water's becoming an even bigger commodity because of the fact that the infrastructure in the UK isn't there. And I think you're seeing more and more golf courses that do have the funds, sort of building reservoirs and investing in that. But so many golf courses don't just have those funds. There's not a lot of money in golf, and golf clubs aren't sitting there with big surpluses in their bank accounts and putting membership fees up just for the like of it. It's unfortunately just a really difficult time. The same cost of living crisis that we're all facing into, the golf clubs are as well, unfortunately, aren't they? So yeah, I don't know what the answer is. It's really nice hitting a 310-yard drive as an 11 handicap golfer when I do it. The problem that isn't good is when that 310-yard drive has got my dispersion circle on it, and it kind of ends up going that way 310 or that way because I just can't keep it on the planet. But there's pros and cons. But I'm really glad there's a bit of rain.
I couldn't get tees into tee boxes, so then I'm forced to hit irons off of just the barest lie in the world. And when you haven't swung a golf club for a few weeks and your first one is like a 5-iron off of a bare lie, it's like, what are we doing? Like, this is tough. It was really bad. It was really bad. I'm sorry to Strixon. Like, there are Z-Star diamonds scattered across Eastbourne Downs. So look, for Eastbourne Downs members, if you're listening to this, do a search. You're going to find some unbelievable golf balls that are going to no doubt help you improve. So find them, keep them until it gets a little bit wetter maybe this year, and then use them, because it's just, otherwise you're just going to pass them on to the next guy who's searching for golf balls.
Amen. On that subject, that golf course, again, just something you were saying, I'm really passionate about this at the moment, which is, I think golf courses, at least at the top of the game, I'm worried that they're kind of starting to price us out of it, and I'm worried there's a bubble that might burst soon for some of these golf courses at the top, because I don't know, again, about the viewers, but I'm finding myself like I want to go and play these top 100 courses just once or twice a year with my friends. But it's really hard in the sort of south, again, of England, within a driving radius of where I am, to find one where the number doesn't start at least at 150, and often a lot of them are going north of 200 now. And I think the really interesting thing that's going to happen, or I'm intrigued to see if it does happen, is if people start going back to those golf courses that we used to be members at, and that kind of mid-tier of golf club is actually going to become inundated because it does price itself that little bit cheaper. And when people are sort of, money becomes tight, leisure is one of the first things that people have to take a step back on, don't they? And probably the sort of main point I want to make is, I think we need to do more to celebrate the different levels of golf courses, because that municipal course that I spoke about, Eastbourne Downs, by the sounds of things that you've just spoken about, the great experience that we both had at Seaford Head, there's a role for every different type of golf course. There's the role for that municipal course that you can turn up in your shorts and t-shirt when you've never played golf before, and you've got a half bag of clubs that your brother handed down to you, and you want to try golf for the first time with a friend. And there's no pressure on the fact that it might be a 4.5 hour round because you're looking for balls or whatever. And then golf needs the next kind of course where you can graduate to, where you are part of a private members club. The course is in slightly better condition year round. There's a true dedicated team of greenkeepers that are employed to keep it there. And there's an ethos and a club or whatever it is. And then, of course, it does need this elite top level clubs. And actually, without those, the other two wouldn't have their role. But I really feel like one thing I'm trying to do more of myself is, how can I promote that bottom two rungs of clubs a little bit more, because there's so many of them out there that when you go and visit them, they deserve their flowers. Seaford Head, I think that's probably one of the best value green fees I've seen in the UK. When we played, it was unbelievable condition, right time of year, absolutely superb. Whatever the team do down there is absolutely great. But again, I'm just really fortunate with what I do to visit so many of these golf courses at that sort of level. And I kind of keep reminding myself, like, I have quite a lot of fun when I visit these courses, and that was why I started playing golf. I didn't start playing golf to play this super hard rated golf course that cost me £250 to play it, and I'm thinking about my bank balance every time I shank one off of a tee and how much I've played for it. I kind of like, I want this green fee that's 20 quid, and I'm out with my mates, and it's a 3 hour round, and you can make 4 birdies because there's a couple of par fours that are under 300 yards, and you can have that eagle putt or whatever it is. I think we need to celebrate them a little bit more, because they've got a place. I played Hurtmore, actually, a course near Guildford the other day, and again, a bit like you played Hurtmore. Played it for the first time the other day. Shot my personal best score round there, which is probably why I like it even more. But it's a par 70. And it's got, I think, 4 par 4s that are about 250 yards, which under the current conditions are drivable for us. I think I hit a couple of 5 woods into a couple of them. but I had, I think it's like 3 eagle putts on the day, which is probably more than my total eagle putts year to date up till that point. You made a load of birdies, you can make a load of pars. It was a great test of your short game because you were hitting a lot of wedges in with your second shots. And it probably goes back to that thing of like, trying to break par off the forward tees before you move back, get used to scoring. It felt like a day like that, but me and my friend that played it were like, we're going to come back here in sort of 6 weeks when it's maybe had a bit of rain because it deserves it. It was so much fun. I think we just need to celebrate those courses a little bit more. Just a point I want to get out there.
Speaking quickly on Hurtmore plays all year round as well. I don't think they ever have temporary greens at
Wow.
Hurtmore. The drainage is unbelievable there. It's a good course. And bacon baps that are second to none.
Noted
If
for
there
next
was an
time.
award, a bacon bap award, I would give it to Hurtmore. I played it in a society day, and we all agreed bacon bap award has to go to Hurtmore. So worth mentioning, I think. And also they had.
Dave,
Sorry, God, look.
I was going to say, you're going to start like a golf course sort of food award called the Bappies or something like that, but just be careful with that name. It might get you in trouble.
I'm gonna say, yeah, exactly, yeah, and potentially, Mbappe may sue me as well. Do you know what I mean? There is that, if we went down that, but yeah, it's a good goal, and they had a cart come out with drinks as well, which is elite. Same happened at where was I? London, Hampton
London
Court
Links?
Palace.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
one.
I want to play Hampton Court Palace. I've heard good things.
I would play it earlier on in the year, maybe. I would probably play it in like May if I was you. But the course itself is good. Like it's a good golf course. It was very burnt out when I played it. Very burnt out. But it was really cool. The driving is a real great experience, and the deer just unbelievable. Like they've got these like white deer with like unbelievable, yeah, just crazy. Oh, there you go. Look, I set my thing off. Look, with my hand gestures. Stop that. Move that back out. There we go. But yeah, really good course. What I was going to say is, I worry when it comes to this conversation of the disparity of pricing. I think it's going to probably get worse. That's my concern. And I don't think it will stop, because when you look at Scotland specifically, and the prices to play the premium golf courses in Scotland, Ireland has sort of come into the same as well because of the American tourism that comes with it. They've realised that actually, if you charge £400 for a round, the Americans will book it out because they think it's worth playing. I don't know if you've heard this story as well of the golf course that I think it was in Ireland, and they were charging like £30 for a round, and everything around them was 250, and they were struggling, like they were on the floor. And then they had a meeting and said, "Look, do we drop it to 25? Like, is that going to help?" And then someone there just went, "Why don't we charge 250 and just see how it goes?" And they upped the prices to 250, and within 3 months they were then booking for the following year because of that idea of, oh, it's worth it because it's this much to play. Now, I think we've fortunately sort of had the filter effect of it hasn't quite made its way down to the south yet because it's not as popular a destination for tourism. But I think the more expensive the Scottish and Irish sort of golf becomes, especially at that premium level, the more it will then affect the courses down south our way, Midlands areas, things like that. Everything will go up, I think, over time, and I think there'll be places like what have we got down near us that's really worth it, like a St George's and sort of places like that will just the prices will keep going up, and it's difficult to blame the golf clubs for doing it. I mean, if they're, like you said, if there is this issue with water over the next few years, then it's it's time for feast because famine might be around the corner, right? And we're going to have
Yeah.
to prepare for it. But I do think there is that. I do think there is, like you were saying, that tier effect that happens, and some golf courses get pushed aside because it's just a bit of a rubbish one, and the greens are a bit funny sometimes, and people lose what that golf course is actually about and the people behind it for sure. Yeah, most definitely.
On that Scotland one, as you know, like I have family that live in Scotland, so I visit there quite a lot and visit a lot of golf courses, play them. So that exact model, I've heard it so many times from golf courses that I've spoken to up there. Exactly that example you just raised. The one thing I will give a lot of golf courses in Scotland credit for, and any of the ones that I visit, anyone listens to this, that I've heard it loud and clear. They are now starting to recognise that they can give a discount to a Scottish resident or a UK resident or whatever, because they are trying to make it that if you are local, that the price is cheaper. So, particularly in Fife, which is obviously the St Andrews kind of Kings Barnes region, visited quite a few golf courses there, and there's so many more incentives now for protecting the price of golf for local residents, and that kind of expands out to the UK quite often, and offering almost kind of two rates for it. If you can show you that you've got a UK address, you get a price that is X as a visitor versus an overseas rate. Now, again, how long that model works before people start questioning that, I don't know. But I did have the golf courses that I've spoken to that do that really went up in my estimations, because they are trying to protect it for the people in their local area that are probably day-to-day were keeping them afloat for the last 20 years before the American sort of tourism boom kicked in, really.
Absolutely. Well, it's important that they're doing that. I'm glad that's happening, because it's just important. It's important that it stays accessible, especially for local people. I'd imagine the English discount is probably not as good. It's actually adds 20% on.
All I'm going to say is I have got a lot of friends in Scotland, and I certainly don't I certainly don't feel that friendly rivalry that maybe comes out in the football context. I certainly don't see it in the golf courses that I visit.
Well, that's good.
I find them incredibly welcoming and incredibly supportive. I don't know if that's the fact that my surname's O'Neill and I've got an Irish surname, but
I'm going to say, and also you're just a very nice guy, Luke. Like maybe that gets, we'll have to see. I need to play golf in Scotland at some point, so we'll have to see if it translates.
Yeah.
Moving away from the golf course to the golf range and to long drive, I saw you attended that event. How was that?
Dave, honestly, one of the most fun days I've had in a golfing context for absolute years. My first comment is, if Eddie Hearn watches your podcast, I do not know why he's not picked up long drive yet, because it's got all the makings of an Eddie Hearn putting a wrapper around it and selling it to millions for loads of money. And I say that as someone who's a massive fan of darts and snooker, sports that Matchroom, boxing that Matchroom have got their teeth into. And the reasons why: there's music playing the whole time. There's a DJ just playing music the whole time. Even when the guys are hitting, there's music going on. There's a bar there for those of you that drink, and you can just stand there with a pint in your hand and drink while you're watching it. There's a barbecue going, selling food, all of which that Eddie Hearn can stick 20% on and make his profit on. There's a load of merch being sold. But what you've got is a sport that, it was my first experience seeing it in the flesh. You've got a sport where it's quite quick. Also great for TV, right? Ad breaks, cashing in, Mr. Hearn.
Absolutely.
But the guys get, like, if anyone's not familiar with long drive, the format, at least of the Long Drivers European Tour event that I went to. So it was the UK event. I think it's a tour of about 8 or 9 events, hosted around mainly in obviously in Europe. And it's a guy, give him a shout, a guy called Javier, who basically runs this tour with his wife, and they just travel around these destinations in Europe, running it, setting it all up in association with the host golf course. And the one that I went to in the UK at Tornabury Golf Centre, which is on Hayling Island near me, they host it because one of the long drive professionals is the head greenkeeper at that golf course. So he's a professional long driver, works as a greenkeeper day to day, and then kind of competes in these competitions. So was really keen to bring a UK event back on the map and kind of put his hand in his pocket to host it effectively. And they've got a great setup. They've got a par 5 that's just perfect for the grid and things. But yeah, the guys get like kind of different stages, group stages, knockout stages, but they get 6 balls in 2 minutes 45 seconds to hit their longest drive. And they've only got to get one in the grid, but they normally get, like, that's a set. and they get like 2 or 3 sets, and it's their best ball over the sets dictates where they finish in their group. But these guys, like, there's personalities. They all swing it really differently to each other. There's that little bit of machoism. There's that, when they're not hitting, they're behind in the crowd cheering their mates on. That kind of like, I want to beat you, but I also want you to do well. They're mingling with the fans that are there, talking to them. They're like telling people how they hit the ball longer. It's just this group of like no egos, but yet like real machoism that's there. And it's that bit of like in the darts where someone hits a long ball and the whole crowd, you can hear them sort of react to seeing this ball go off down the range straight. And then you hear the scream from the golfer that's hit the long one, like, celebrating it kind of thing. It's just got all the makings of a really good sport. And it's something in my head that's like, I just can't understand why this has not been picked up yet. You get a couple of trackmans on it with some screens there. You build a grandstand around it, showing the traces of where the balls go. I just think it's made for it. And yeah, I fear for the guys that are doing it now that they might be the ones that get the breakthrough for the generations that come behind them, and they're not going to earn the money from it, if you know what I mean. They're going to be the ones that sort of create it. But if you sort of follow long drivers online, James Tate, who actually won the event, Scottish long drive guy, absolutely brilliant. I think he hit the long ball of the day was 436, which he hit, which again, 436 yards. Doesn't matter if it's firm and fast. 436 into a grid is blooming impressive.
Sea level
Luke
as well.
Curtis was, it is at sea level as well. Absolutely right. Luke Curtis was there. And just a whole host of other guys. But yeah, and it was really interesting, this triangulation between a guy called Josh that runs UK Long Drive, the guys at the Long Drive European Tour, Javier and his wife, that are traveling around, almost like a little traveling circus, kind of doing this thing and putting their money in their pocket, and they've got this formula that works really well. And then there's just group of professionals that are just friends that come together and put on this show for the day. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it was a real privilege for me because it was probably one of the first opportunities I've had to be, almost like a freelance videographer. Not, I'm not there for my own content. I'm there to make content for them. And I just had the most brilliant day. Everyone was really welcoming, really supportive of what I was trying to do. The content that we've put out so far seems to have landed really well with the guys that were there and people that are watching it. So yeah, it was a really great opportunity. Really grateful to Will, the guy at Tornabury, that sort of facilitated it, for asking me to come along and do that on the day. But yeah, I will be back next year, whether I'm photographing it, videoing it, or just watching it as a spectator. And there's a couple of little, I don't know whether you'd call them minor celebs. So Liv Cook, who's professional golfer, Sky Sports presenter, she was there, came along. She was like, I just had to come along and watch it because I wanted to see it for myself. So yeah, just a brilliant day. And if anyone listening to the podcast has never given Long Drive a go, and there's an event in your area, whether it's an amateur event or a pro event, really do give it a go, because it's a really good day out and you can pop along for an hour. People are there with their kids, their dogs, little youngsters are having a can of fizzy pop and dancing to the music while the long drive's going on and things. But go and check it out. That's my sort of sales pitch for Long Drive. It was one of the most fun days I've had in the golf industry so far.
No, absolutely. No, I have to try and get along to one of their events, because this podcast has like a sort of interesting history with Long Drive, because Crank at one point were a sponsor of the podcast, had Lance Reader on, who obviously was a world long drive competitor, and then developed obviously the drivers for it as well. And then I had Scotty Perman on, who ended up this year claiming world number one as well. And his story was fascinating around the game of golf, and how he used to be the short hitter when he was a kid, and all these sort of things, and his family and his son and everything that went on with them, and to reach the goals that he needs to get to. And I think even he was saying, even in America, that it's still difficult. It's like they're having to sell it the whole time. And yet he's like, and we're like pretty entertaining. Like, that's kind of part of the gig. It's a little bit sort of WWE sort of style. We said, we recognize that that's how you get crowds involved, and it does seem to be this sort of disconnect, when it should really be something that it's a pretty easy sell. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable the distances these guys are hitting, especially when you look at, say, something like TGL. Now, this is what I don't get. And TGL is not, it's not real golf, is it? Like, they want it to be real golf. It's not real golf. So how do you make it a more entertaining product? Well, first of all, you include lady golfers, like
Mm-hmm.
that. There's no reason why they've started a ladies TGL. I have no idea. Like, this was the opportunity to incorporate all into that sort of format into the teams. You have a world long drive guy,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a long drive competitor. You like you said, your James Tates and all these types of guys can come over and be part of it. And then you have suddenly you have this really interesting team being developed, rather
Mm.
than just watching Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele and blah, blah, blah all be part of a team and not really talk to each other and barely talk to the commentators. Like, the personalities are what drive the thing, and it would shine a light on long drive as well. And then suddenly it's in the mainstream a bit more. And then, then, like you just said, maybe Eddie Hearns come along and go, wait a minute,
Yeah.
there's something here. Like, it'll be funny if someone saw something in slap fighting, then surely there has to be something in a far better product that is world long drive and long drive in general, European long drive. These events you're talking about, I 100% get where you're coming from.
And just to bring it to life, like final story on it, and again, probably naturally, my interest in this has been piqued from the build up to it. You start to naturally, because I'm doing my research on how am I going to create this content for the day, what's it going to look and feel like, so I can go and maximize it. You naturally start following the guys, right, and you start learning their stories. And I might get this wrong, but I hope I do get it right. I think James Tate, who's arguably one or two in Europe at the moment, one of the longest hitters we've got. At the moment, he's got a GoFundMe page to try and get the cost of his travel to go to the World Championships, because that's how little money there is. I think this isn't a criticism of the guys running Long Drivers European Tour. They're putting as much money. The guy that runs it, Javier, I think there's something stupid like 80% of the money that comes in goes straight back to the players. He knows the players are the commodity. Like, the guy has to have a day job, and there's only 8 or 9 events because his day job pays for him to put the money into the business. Right, like, the guy's just got a passion for long drive. But someone like James, who's won a couple of events this year, who's very successful on social media because of the fact that he's got this skill that people like watching. He's got a GoFundMe page out at the moment to try and cover the cost of going to the World Championships, where he's got a genuine chance of competing and winning that thing. And it's such a shame that that's kind of, it's not. The reason he might not win it is not because he's not the longest driver. It's because he might not be able to get there in the first place or whatever, and things. And again, Will, the guy that I know, unbelievably brilliant greenkeeper, running the family golf course or whatever on the site. But his practice is, I've just worked from 5 a.m. till 3 p.m, and my kids are at kids club for an hour. I've got an hour to practice long drive, kind of thing. That's kind of when these guys are doing it, which, again, like, whatever, I'm sure they would say, like, world's smallest violin, we're doing something that's golf and that we're good at it. But the thing I don't get about it is, if you go on YouTube to watch a driver review, I don't get the views on a driver review because no one wants to watch me hit the new Titleist driver 240. What they want to watch is Peter Finch knock it 310 or whatever Pete Finch does, because he hits it a long way. And back in the day, the guys at TXG, they had a guy, Matt, used to bomb it a long way. People want to watch that. Why do people not want to watch James Tate with music playing, with a beer in their hand, smashing a ball 436 yards? Because that's what I want to watch. Like, that's cool, and it's in the flesh, and you can hear a sound that you've never heard before off of a golf ball, and a sound as it fizzes off that face, kind of thing. So, not sure, mate. My sales pitch for Long Drive is done. I met some wonderful people at the weekend, and I will be going back next year, and we'll just encourage everybody to go and check it out. And follow these guys on social. They're really good followers, some of them. James has got a video where it looks like he's almost just chipping driver 400 yards, and you're thinking, my swing feels like it's double as fast as yours, and it goes 220 through the air. Cheers.
It's horrible, isn't it? It is horrible.
It is.
When you watch the ease of which they generate the speed as well. Like, I was trying to swing as hard as I could in my garden the other day, and I had my speed trainer out, and I was like, just couldn't get past, like, 109. It was like 109, and it's like, that's it. That's all you've got today. And it's like, these guys are swinging the golf club at 150, 160 miles. What is going on? Their club head speed is my ball speed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a really final quick story on it. I went onto the practice range to capture some content, and there's a golfer, one of the long drive guys. I think his name's Aaron Martin, based out of like Coventry way, and he was the only guy that was warming up or in between sets. I think he'd qualified for like the knockout, so he was just keeping himself loose, and he was hitting like 7-iron or something rather than driver. Everyone else was hitting driver on this range. He was hitting 7-iron. I can honestly tell you, I've been to a lot of tour events in my time. I've seen Rory hit a ball up close. I've never heard a golf ball come off of a 7-iron with the fizz that this guy's 7-iron came off. And I was very lucky to be filming it sort of front on from maybe 5 meters away. And this golf ball just went off this club face. And I was like, I don't care if it goes straight. If it sounds like that, I want to have a piece of that. Like it made me want to get the speed sticks out as soon as I got home, right?
Let's do it. Project Speed. Project Speed 27. I think it needs to be.
I might be competing in like the under 14s amateur division next year, mate. Maybe
a win's a win, mate. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. The trophy up behind you next time you're on the podcast. Absolutely fine. Look, have you got anything coming up soon that you're excited about?
So I think for me, it was probably about this time last year that we spoke. We go into kind of new club season at the moment. So for me and the channel, my channel sort of has 2 or 3 phases to it, which is the summer is about, there's not many club releases. So I get out and do my course vlogs and things like that. And then kind of you get into the autumn and it's start of club review season. So aware of kind of very fortunate. I think I said this last time. I'm very, very fortunate that my channel's at a size now where I do kind of get a little bit of access to information from brands on what's coming and when to expect it and things. So I've started to see some information about some new releases that are coming soon. There is one release in particular that selfishly I'm very excited for. There's a club that I nearly put all my money on maybe a year or so back, for whatever reason didn't. And there might be the next generation of that coming soon that I'm very excited for, which will land on my channel, I think probably in the next sort of couple of weeks. But yeah, really excited for that. I think that's my favourite time of year, new club season. It's when my channel probably is at its busiest. It's when I'm kind of thriving. And then I think for me, otherwise, I'm really just trying to grow the kind of, the freelance sort of videography, sort of photography side of it. I've really developed a passion for it. I never thought I would get as much joy being behind the camera as I do being in front of it. And if anything, I hate to admit it, I'm maybe starting to get more joy out of it. I'm starting to get more joy out of coming up with the idea, and then you present that output back to the client and they love it. And it was beyond their kind of expectations. And that, how do I capture that shot that's a little bit different to what you've seen before, and something that maybe does stand out on the crowd? So really looking to hopefully grow that part of my business over the sort of next 6 months. And like any opportunities that present themselves, I'm just going to run in with them sort of head first and try and take them, because it's something I'm certainly becoming massively passionate about. It's the thing. My wife will tell you, I came back from the long drive event on Saturday and I was like, that might be my favourite day in this whole journey that I've started so far. 5 years of doing it, from whatever it was, the first video in my garden, and then kind of starting on social media, and then kind of starting to work, like I say, offering freelance services. It was without doubt the best day, and I think I just want more of those days, really. So I'm going to spend, I think, a lot of the winter trying to develop that side of the business. And I'd love to find a couple of golf courses or golf businesses that maybe share a lot of values similar to me, where we've got some really good values, but we also recognize our place in the ecosystem. I think me and you had this chat about recognizing your place in the ecosystem, but who feels like they can just market themselves a little bit better, and that maybe someone like me could help them and stuff. I'd love to find a couple of relationships like that, because I really feel like I want to buy into that kind of relationship, and hopefully find a couple of places that want to buy into me. So a shameless plug. If any golf course is listening to this, or small golf business and is looking for someone to help them with that, I would love to hear from you guys. But in the meantime, mate, I'm going to probably just be trying to find my golf swing again, because I've gone from shooting my best ever score 10 days ago at Hurtmore to shooting 26 over par in a competition, or 27 over par, I think, on Sunday, 10 days later, in a competition at my home golf course. this weekend, and my only thing that I'm proud of is that I didn't NR. I refused to NR, no matter how bad it got on the back nine, making a quad and
My guy.
and I think I've made a 9 on a par 4 at some point. So yeah, my
We
goal
finished
over
the
the
round.
winter is to find a golf swing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm in a very. I was going to say, if anyone is interested, reach out to Luke. You find him on Instagram, and pretty sure they can get in touch with you there. TikTok, things like that as well. And then, are you
Yeah, the
happy for
website as well.
email website? So
Yeah.
Weekend Tour Pros or Weekend
Weekendtourpro.com. Yeah, and there's
Weekendtourpro.com.
links like you say to emails and things like that as well. And for anyone that is genuinely interested, not to turn this into an advert, but there's some case studies and things on there. You can see examples of the work that we do as well.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I'm in a similar, not quite as bad as the 27 over, but that is in competition, so that's fine. And you finished the round, which is brave and courageous, and deserves an award in itself, I think. But I was sort of in a similar place. I was playing like some really nice golf, playing really well, and then just sort of out of nowhere, just developed this hook. So then I went the other way and hit a fade, and now I'm trying to find somewhere in the middle again, which is fun. So the net's in full use in the garden, and I'm just hitting golf balls, trying to re-find some kind of form, so I can get out there and hopefully get some good scores again. But we'll see, mate. It's golf, right? It's golf.
It's the never-ending cycle of a golfer. Like, I think I'm on that curve of, shoot a good score, expectations rise, golf then goes, no, why did you do that? Then you go back to the pit of despair. Then you practice again, which is probably what you should have been doing to begin with. You find a feel, you shoot the good score, and then the cycle just begins again, right? That's the cycle of golf.
You don't know this. I had a round at Manning's Heath Golf Club, the waterfall course. I had 6 birdies in that round. A third of the golf course I birdied, and I still shot an 81.
What's the par?
71 or 72 out there.
Wow.
So I, still, it was probably my best round there. But the fact that I had 6 birdies and still didn't break 80 that day, I was like, what is this? I came in and I saw the guys in there that I'm friendly with, and I was like, 6 birdies today. And he's like, whoa, you must have shot the lights out. I was like, 81, and just walked off into the bar. And he was like, oh no. And I was like, yeah, that's it.
I've got a game on that note. I've got a game that one of my friends plays. He loves golf, but due to a lot of commitments, plays about once a quarter. He's got this unbelievable ability, just good muscle memory, that he can pick up a golf club after 3 months of never touching one and just shoot an okay score. Like, he's going to break 90 kind of thing, or whatever. To the point the other day I played with him and he didn't even bother hitting a ball on the range. He was like, nah, just wait till I get out there. Like, didn't even want to have a practice swing. Don't know how he does it. But the game that he almost sort of jokingly plays is it's birdies versus blobs. How many birdies can he make versus how many blobs can he make? And if he gets more birdies, then he considers that a good day. So like 3 birdies, 2 blobs, he wins.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that sounds like a fun game. That sounds like if it's going bad after 9 holes, birdies and blobs time.
Yeah, it works. It does, because it just takes the pressure off.
100%. Well, listen, Luke, thank you so much for joining the podcast this week. It was great to have you back on. It was wonderful to hear about your sort of evolving channel, and obviously also your sort of passions within the game changing a little bit as well as it grows, and finding the love for videography, which you're brilliant at, and photography as well. So yeah, it was just a real pleasure to have you on, mate, and it's great to learn about all those stories, and hopefully get a few of those people on the podcast at some point as well, because I'd love to hear more of their stories also.
Thank you, Dave. I absolutely love every moment in your company, whether it's virtually or in person. So looking forward to taking you out to my golf course at some point soon as well.
Absolutely, mate. Let's get it sorted and we'll have a rematch. And do not give me those gimmies this time, all right?
I won't have a lesson the day before either.